So once you and the child have worked together to choose a book that they're interested in, that's the right level for them, what you want to do before you begin reading is help the child think ahead and make some predictions about what you'll be reading. And a great way to do that is just observe the cover together and ask them some open-ended questions to get started. If at any point in this process they're reluctant or they don't seem to know the answers to your questions, it's great to model the kind of behavior and answers that you're looking for. So let's look at the cover of this story. The first thing I notice is these words at the top, and it's someone's name, Claudia Rueda. That's the author of this story. And then I see the words in the middle, which is the title. Let's play in the forest, this extra little bit here, while the wolf is not around. That's what's called a subtitle. And a lot of times it gives us more information about what the book might be about. I also see some animals on the cover of this story. I see one that looks like a beaver, has really big teeth. I see a couple of animals with antlers. I think this one's a deer because the antlers are a little slimmer. This one looks like it might be a moose. I see an animal that I don't really know what it is. And I see a bird and maybe a bunny rabbit. These animals are really brightly colored. Do you think this story is real or made up? I think since probably moose aren't purple in the real world, this might be a made-up story. And their eyes look really big too. I think they might be scared of the wolf. What do you think? Let's read this story and find out. Once you and the child have worked together to pick a book that they're interested in, that's just right for them, it's time to start reading. And what you really want is the child reading aloud to you. If they seem reluctant to do so, you could offer at first to take turns reading. Maybe you read a page and they read a page. And often as they read more, they'll get more comfortable, so you could challenge them to read 2 pages in a row and keep going that way. While you're reading, you do want to ask a few comprehension questions as you go, but you don't want to interrupt the flow of their reading too much with too many questions. So every once in a while, maybe stop and ask about those predictions you made while you were looking at the cover, or maybe ask about what you think will be happening next in the story. And if a child is reading a nonfiction book, it can be tougher to ask those comprehension questions, but it's often good to see if they can relate some of the diagrams, photographs, maps, or charts to the words that they're reading. So you want to do that as you go. And then if there comes a point when the child seems not to know a word, you want to employ what we call the 5-second rule. And that's because often when children don't know a word, they'll pause and take the time to figure it out themselves. So you want to leave them the time to do that, even if it feels like a long silence. So if at the end of 5 seconds they still don't seem to know the word, they ask for help, or they mispronounce it, what you want to do is point to the word on the page, pronounce it for the child, and define it if you need to. Have them repeat the word back to you so that you know they know how to pronounce it, and then have them reread the sentence containing the word and move on. So that's important to know because you want to give them the time to correct themselves if they can, but you want to also help them if they're uncomfortable. And you'll also often notice that they will skip or mispronounce a word and move on really fast. So you want to be able to go back and use those same techniques if they do that as well. Once you finish reading, you also want to make sure to ask some comprehension questions at the end of the story. And those questions can be anything from what happened at the beginning of the story, who was the main character in the story, where did the story take place, or you can ask who was your favorite character and why, because that often gets children talking about the actions that the character took during the story. There are more examples of comprehension questions below.